At first, they were just a stranger, someone I had no reason to remember. But the more I tried to ignore them, the more I realized they weren't ignoring me. I still check my doorbell camera obsessively. Every notification, every shadow, every time the wind moves something outside. My therapist says it's PTSD. My boyfriend says I need to let it go. But they weren't there. They didn't hear what I heard. They didn't see what was left behind. Let me back up. This happened 2 years ago when I was living alone in Tacoma, Washington. I was a high school English teacher, 27 years old, renting a small one-bedroom apartment on the 3rd floor of an older building. Nothing fancy, thin walls, creaky floors, but it was mine. My boyfriend, Derek, lived across town and stayed over on weekends. The rest of the time, it was just me. November in Tacoma is miserable. Cold, gray, rain that never stops. That night was no different. I remember the sound of it hammering against the windows, that constant drumming that made everything feel heavy and suffocating. I was up late grading essays, procrastinating, really, sitting on my couch in sweatpants and an oversized hoodie. The TV was on for background noise. Some true crime documentary I wasn't really watching. It was 3:47 a.m. when I heard the knocks. 3 of them. Slow, deliberate, evenly spaced. Knock, knock, knock. I froze. My stomach dropped. At first, I thought I imagined it. But then I heard it again. Knock, knock, knock. Same rhythm, same force. Like whoever was out there wasn't in a hurry, wasn't panicked, just patient. My apartment was at the end of a long hallway. There were only 2 other units on my floor, and both were occupied by elderly people who went to bed before 9 p.m. No one should have been knocking, especially not at this hour. I muted the TV. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I sat there, barely breathing, hoping whoever it was would just go away. 30 seconds of silence. Then again. Knock, knock, knock. I stood up slowly, legs shaking, and crept toward the door. The apartment was dark except for the glow of the TV. I didn't turn on any lights. I didn't want whoever was out there to know I was awake. I looked through the peephole. A man stood there. He was facing the door, but his head was tilted down slightly, like he was staring at the floor. He wore a dark hoodie, hands stuffed in the pockets. I couldn't see his face, just the shadow of it under the hood. He wasn't moving, wasn't fidgeting, wasn't looking around, just standing there, waiting. Every instinct in my body screamed, "Don't make a sound." I backed away from the door, one step at a time, my hand over my mouth to keep from breathing too loud. I grabbed my phone off the coffee table, hands trembling so badly I almost dropped it. That's when he knocked again. Knock, knock, knock. And then he spoke. His voice was low, calm, almost polite. "I know you're awake." I stopped breathing. He said it like he was stating a fact. Not threatening, not angry, just certain. I stood there, paralyzed, staring at the door. My mind was racing. How does he know? Did he hear me? Did he see the light from the TV? I didn't move, didn't respond. I just stood there, clutching my phone, praying he would leave. Another 30 seconds of silence. Then one more time he knocked. Knock, knock, knock. And then, in that same calm, quiet voice, he said, "I'll come back when you're sleeping." My blood turned to ice. I heard footsteps, slow, unhurried, moving down the hallway, fading away. I waited until I couldn't hear them anymore. Then I ran to the door, checked the locks, checked the deadbolt, checked the chain. Everything was secure. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. I called 911. The operator answered and I could barely get the words out. I told her what happened. She stayed on the line with me while 2 officers were dispatched. They arrived about 15 minutes later. I let them in, still shaking, still crying. They were professional. Took my statement, walked the hallway, checked the stairwells, reviewed the building's security footage. Nothing. No one on camera. No sign of forced entry. No suspicious activity. The officer told me it was possible someone from another floor got confused or was playing a prank. He said I should call if it happened again. But I knew it wasn't a prank. I called Derek. He drove over and stayed the rest of the night. I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch with every light in the apartment on, staring at the door. The next 2 weeks were a blur. I barely slept. I started having panic attacks. Couldn't be alone. Derek stayed over most nights, but he had to work during the day, and I'd sit in that apartment, jumping at every sound, checking the peephole every 10 minutes. Then, 2 weeks after the knocking, I came home from work and found something. A photo. It was slipped under my door. A regular printed photo, slightly blurry, taken from outside. It was me, asleep in my bed, taken through my bedroom window. I dropped it, screamed, called the police again. They came back, took the photo, dusted for prints. Nothing. They checked the fire escape outside my window. No signs of forced entry. No footprints. No DNA. Just the photo. They suggested I move. So I did. I broke my lease. Packed everything in 3 days. Moved to Spokane to stay with my sister. Eventually, I got a new job. A new apartment. Changed my phone number. Deleted all my social media. I never found out who he was. The police never called me with updates. The case went cold. But here's the thing. About 6 months ago, I was walking to my car after work. It was late. The parking lot was almost empty. I unlocked my door, and just as I was about to get in, I heard it. 3 knocks. On the car window next to me. Knock, knock, knock. I spun around. No one was there, but I felt it. That same feeling. The one I had that night. The feeling of being watched. I got in my car, locked the doors, and drove home, checking my rearview mirror the entire way. I still don't know if it was real, if he found me, if he's still out there. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm lying in bed and the house is quiet, I hear it. 3 slow, deliberate knocks, and I don't know if they're real or if they're just in my head. Either way, I don't sleep anymore. I used to run at night to clear my head. It was my therapy, my escape from the stress of work, from the anxiety that kept me up until midnight scrolling through my phone. My therapist told me I needed healthy coping mechanisms. Running was supposed to be that. I wish I'd never started. Let me back up. This happened in Austin, Texas, about 1.5 years ago. I was 29, working as a graphic designer for a startup that demanded 60-hour weeks. I lived in a neighborhood called Travis Heights, older homes, tree-lined streets, families with dogs and kids. Felt safe. People jogged there all the time. I'd see them in the mornings, the evenings, even late at night. It was Austin. Everyone was a runner or a cyclist or a yoga person. I started running around 10 p.m. because that's when I finally got off work. The October air was perfect. Cool, crisp, not too cold. The streets were well lit. Porch lights on. I felt safe. That should have been my first warning. Feeling safe. It was a Thursday night. I remember because I'd had a terrible day at work. My boss tore apart a project I'd spent weeks on, and I just needed to move to burn off the anger. I threw on my running shoes, grabbed my earbuds, and headed out. The first mile was fine. I took my usual route down South 5th Street, looping around the neighborhood, past the park, then back home. I had my playlist going. My mind was finally starting to quiet down. That's when I saw him. A jogger, male, maybe 5'10", average build, wearing a dark hoodie and black running pants. He was about 20 feet behind me. At first, I didn't think anything of it. Like I said, people jogged at night all the time. But then I noticed he was matching my pace exactly. I'd speed up, and a few seconds later, he'd speed up. I'd slow down to catch my breath, and so would he. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I'd watched too many true crime documentaries, that not every man running at night was dangerous. But then I turned down a side street, a street I didn't usually take, just to test it. He turned too. My heart started pounding, and not from the running. I pulled out one earbud and slowed to a walk, pretending to check my phone. He slowed down too. I could hear his footsteps now. Steady, deliberate, not trying to pass me, just staying behind me. I glanced over my shoulder. He had his hood up. I couldn't see his face, but I could feel his eyes on me. Okay, I thought, this is fine. Just keep walking. You're almost home. But I wasn't almost home. I was still about half a mile away, and the street I was on was darker than the others. Fewer porch lights, fewer cars, fewer witnesses. I picked up my pace. So did he. I started jogging again. So did he. My street was just ahead. I could see my house, the little blue bungalow with the white porch light. Relief flooded through me. But when I turned onto my street, I heard his footsteps turn too. That's when I knew. He wasn't just some random jogger. He was following me. To my house. Panic hit me like a freight train. My hands were shaking. My legs felt like jelly. I sprinted. I didn't care how loud I was. Didn't care if I looked crazy. I just ran. I heard his footsteps quicken behind me. He was running now too. Fast. I reached my front door, fumbling with my keys, my hands trembling so badly I almost dropped them. I could hear him getting closer. I could hear his breathing. I shoved the key into the lock, twisted it, threw the door open, stumbled inside, and slammed it shut. I locked it, deadbolt, chain, everything. And then I stood there, chest heaving, sweat pouring down my face, staring at the door. I waited for a knock, for him to try the handle, for something. Nothing. Slowly, I crept to the window and peeked through the curtains. He was standing at the end of my driveway, not moving, not leaving, just standing there, facing my house. I couldn't see his face still. Hood was up, shadows covered everything, but I could see his posture. Relaxed, patient, like he had all the time in the world. My stomach turned. I grabbed my phone and called 911. The operator answered and I told her everything. About the jogger, about him following me home, about him standing in my driveway right now. She said officers were on the way and to stay inside with the doors locked. I kept watching him through the window. He stood there for a full 5 minutes, just staring. And then he smiled. I don't know how I knew he smiled. I couldn't see his mouth clearly, but I felt it. The way his head tilted slightly, the way his shoulders relaxed. It was like he wanted me to know that he knew I was watching. Then, slowly, he turned around and jogged away, casually, like nothing had happened. By the time the police arrived 10 minutes later, he was long gone. They took my statement, asked for a description, checked the area, found nothing. No surveillance cameras on my street. No doorbell footage that caught him clearly. No witnesses. One officer suggested I'd overreacted. That maybe he lived in the neighborhood and just happened to be running the same route. But I knew better. The next day, I forced myself to go outside and check the side of my house, near my bedroom window. There's a flower bed there, soft dirt, mulch. And there it was, a shoe print, fresh, deep, right below my bedroom window. Someone had been standing there, looking in. I called the police again. They came back, took photos, wrote another report. But they said there wasn't much they could do. No evidence of forced entry. No direct threat. Just a footprint. I installed cameras. Changed my routine. Stopped running at night. Started driving to the gym instead. But here's the thing that still keeps me up at night. About 2 months later, I was at the grocery store. It was a Saturday afternoon. Broad daylight. I was in the produce section picking out apples and I felt it. That feeling. The same one I had that night. I looked up, and across the store, standing near the registers, I saw him. Same build, same hoodie, watching me. Our eyes met, and he smiled. The same smile. I dropped my basket and ran. Got in my car. Drove home. Locked every door. Called the police again. They said without proof, without him actually approaching me, there was nothing they could do. I moved 3 months later. Different neighborhood, different side of town. But sometimes when I'm walking to my car after work or taking out the trash at night, I get that feeling again. And I turn around, and there's no one there. But I know he's watching. I know he knows where I live. And I know one day he'll come back. I'm a single mom. That's important to know because it explains why I was so paranoid, why I had that baby monitor on every single night, why I checked the locks 3 times before bed. It was just me and Emma. No partner. No backup. Just us. I never thought that monitor would be the thing that put her in danger. Let me back up. This happened in Richmond, Virginia, about 18 months ago. I was living in a quiet duplex on the west side of town. Small place. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, shared wall with an elderly couple who I rarely saw. Emma had just turned 2. She was finally sleeping through the night, and I'd bought this expensive video baby monitor because I was anxious. I needed to see her, hear her, know she was safe. The monitor had a camera that panned the room, night vision, 2-way audio. I could check on her from my phone or from the handheld screen downstairs. It gave me peace of mind. I thought it made us safer. I was wrong. It was a Tuesday night in March. I remember because I just finished a double shift at the hospital. I'm a nurse and I was exhausted. Emma had gone down around 7 p.m. without a fight, and I'd collapsed on the couch with leftover Chinese food and some reality TV show I wasn't really watching. Around 10:30 p.m., I heard it. A voice. Coming through the monitor. At first, I thought it was interference. Static. Maybe a neighbor's device picking up the signal. But then I heard it clearly. A man's voice. Low. Whispering. Emma. Wake up. My blood went cold. I grabbed the handheld monitor screen. Emma was still asleep, curled up with her stuffed rabbit. Blanket pulled up to her chin. The room was dark except for her nightlight. Nothing looked wrong. But I'd heard it. I knew I had. I muted the TV and listened. Silence. Just Emma's soft breathing through the speaker. I told myself I was overtired, paranoid, that my mind was playing tricks on me. But my hands were shaking. I checked all the doors, all the windows. Everything was locked. I went upstairs, slowly, quietly, and opened Emma's door. She was fine, sleeping peacefully. I checked her window locked, checked her closet empty. Nothing. I stood there for a long time, just watching her breathe, telling myself I'd imagined it. I went back downstairs, turned the TV back on, tried to relax, but I couldn't shake the feeling. The next night, I made sure everything was locked up early. I kept the monitor volume high. Emma went to bed at her normal time. I sat on the couch, pretending to read a book, but really just staring at the monitor screen. Nothing happened. By midnight, I felt stupid. I psyched myself out. I went to bed. At 2:13 a.m., I woke up to the sound. The voice. Again. Emma, I see you. I shot up in bed, heart hammering in my chest. I grabbed my phone, pulled up the monitor app. Emma was still asleep, but the camera was moving, slowly panning across her room. I hadn't touched the controls. And then I heard it, breathing, through the monitor speaker. Slow, deliberate, like someone was right there in the room with her. I jumped out of bed, grabbed the baseball bat I kept in my closet, and ran to Emma's room. I threw the door open, flipped on the lights. She was fine, startled awake by the light, rubbing her eyes, confused, but fine. The window was still locked. The closet was still empty. No one was there, but the camera on the monitor was still moving. I ripped the monitor off the wall, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I unplugged it, took the batteries out, and I called 911. The police came, 2 officers. They were kind, professional. They checked the house, checked the duplex next door, checked outside. Nothing. No signs of forced entry. No one lurking around. But when I showed them the monitor, when I told them about the voice, about the camera moving on its own, one of the officers asked me if it was connected to the internet. It was. That's how the app worked. He said someone could have hacked it, accessed the camera remotely, watched us, spoken through the speaker. I felt sick. They took the monitor as evidence, told me they'd look into it, try to trace the IP address. They said I should get a new monitor, one without internet connectivity. They said I should change all my passwords. I did all of that, but it didn't make me feel safe. 3 days later, an officer called me back. He said they'd traced the IP address. Came from somewhere in Eastern Europe. Romania, maybe. They couldn't do anything about it. No jurisdiction. No way to identify the person. He said it was likely some creep who scans for unsecured devices and hacks into them for whatever sick reason. He said I wasn't the first person this had happened to. That didn't make me feel better. I threw the old monitor away, bought a basic audio-only one. No camera, no internet, just sound. I also covered Emma's window with blackout curtains, changed the locks, started sleeping with my bedroom door open so I could hear her if she cried. For a few weeks, things seemed normal. But then, little things started happening. I come home from work and feel like something was off. A drawer I didn't remember opening. A window shade pulled down when I'd left it up. Small things. Things I couldn't be sure about. One night, I was putting Emma to bed, and she looked up at me with her big brown eyes and said, "Mommy, who's the man?" My stomach dropped. "What man, sweetie?" "The man who talks to me at night." I could barely breathe. "What does he say?" She shrugged. "He says my name. He says he wants to be my friend." I didn't sleep that night. I sat in her room in the rocking chair, baseball bat across my lap, watching her sleep. Nothing happened, but I started noticing something else. When I checked my phone, sometimes the camera app I deleted would be reinstalled. I'd delete it again. It would come back. I factory reset my phone, changed my Apple ID password. It still happened. I took my phone to a tech store. They said it looked like someone had remote access to my device. They wiped it completely, gave me a new phone number. That seemed to stop it. But here's the thing I can't shake. A few months ago, Emma and I moved. Different neighborhood, different side of town. Fresh start. I didn't tell anyone where we were going. I didn't post about it. I was careful. But last week, I was putting Emma to bed, and she said it again. "Mommy, the man is back." I asked her what she meant. She pointed to the window. "He waves at me sometimes." I looked. The curtains were drawn. The window was locked. But when I went outside to check, I found something. Cigarette butts. A half dozen of them. On the ground. Right below her window. Someone had been standing there, watching. I called the police again. They came. They searched. Nothing. But I know. He's still out there. And somehow he found us again. I don't know if he's still watching, if he's still listening, but I hear whispers sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet, and I don't know if they're real, or if I'm losing my mind. I don't pick up hitchhikers anymore. I don't care how cold it is, how desperate they look, how much my conscience nags at me. I learned my lesson, and I'm lucky I'm still alive to tell you about it. Let me back up. This happened 3 years ago, January 2022. I was driving cross-country from Denver to Chicago. My dad had just passed away, and I needed to get home for the funeral. I couldn't afford a last-minute flight, so I drove 14 hours straight through the Midwest in the dead of winter. I left Denver around noon. The plan was to drive through the night, avoid traffic, get to Chicago by early morning. I had coffee, podcasts, a full tank of gas. I thought I'd be fine. By the time I hit Nebraska, it was past midnight. The roads were empty, snow everywhere, piled on the shoulders, covering the fields, falling in thin, lazy flakes that swirled in my headlights. The highway was a straight black line cutting through nothing but darkness and white. I'd been driving for about 11 hours. I was exhausted. My eyes were burning. My back ached. But I didn't want to stop. I just wanted to get home. That's when I saw him. A man. Standing on the shoulder of the highway, thumb out, no jacket, just a red flannel shirt and jeans. No hat, no gloves. His breath was visible in the cold air. I passed him at first, didn't even slow down. But then I looked in my rearview mirror. He was still standing there, arms wrapped around himself, shivering. And I felt guilty. It was below freezing, middle of nowhere, no gas stations for miles. If I didn't pick him up, he could die out there. So I slowed down, pulled over onto the shoulder about 50 yards ahead, put the car in park. I watched him in my side mirror. He jogged up to the car, slow and stiff, like his legs were frozen. When he got to the passenger door, I unlocked it. He got in without saying a word. No, thank you. No smile. No explanation for why he was out there. He just sat down, pulled the door shut, and stared straight ahead. I waited for him to say something. Anything. Nothing. Hey, I said, trying to sound friendly. You okay? You must be freezing. He didn't look at me, just nodded slightly. Where are you headed? East, he said. His voice was flat, empty. Okay. Well, I'm going to Chicago. I can take you as far as… That's fine, he interrupted. And then silence. I put the car in drive and pulled back onto the highway. My heart was beating a little faster than it should have been. Something felt off. But I told myself I was just tired, paranoid from driving through the night. I tried to make small talk, asked him his name, where he was coming from, why he was hitchhiking in the middle of winter. He didn't answer any of it, just stared out the windshield. After about 10 minutes of silence, I glanced over at him. That's when I noticed his hands. They were trembling, badly, shaking in his lap like he had some kind of nerve disorder. But it wasn't from the cold. The heat was blasting. He should have been warming up by now. You all right? I asked. He didn't respond. I kept driving. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Something was very, very wrong. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to pull over and tell him to get out. But I didn't. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't want to be rude. Maybe I thought I was overreacting. That was a mistake. We drove for another 20 minutes in complete silence. The only sound was the hum of the engine and the occasional gust of wind rattling the car. Then he spoke. You shouldn't have stopped. My blood went cold. I looked over at him. He was still staring straight ahead. His face was expressionless. What? I said, trying to keep my voice steady. You shouldn't have stopped, he repeated, slower this time, like he was explaining something to a child. What do you mean? He didn't answer. My heart was pounding now. My mouth was dry. I could see a green highway sign up ahead. A gas station at the next exit, 2 miles away. Look, man, I said, trying to sound calm. I'm gonna stop for gas up here. You can get out if you want. He turned his head and looked at me for the first time. His eyes were wrong. I don't know how else to describe it. Empty, hollow, like there was nothing behind them. Okay, he said quietly. I took the exit way too fast, tires skidding slightly on the icy ramp. I pulled into the gas station. A tiny, rundown place with 2 pumps and a flickering neon sign that said, Open 24 hours. There was one other car there, parked near the air pump. No one inside it. I pulled up to a pump and put the car in park. My hands were shaking now too. All right, I said, trying to sound casual. I'm gonna run inside. Thanks for the company. He didn't move, just sat there. I opened my door and got out. He got out too. That's when I noticed something. He wasn't heading toward the road. He was following me, toward the store. My stomach dropped. I walked faster. He matched my pace. I pushed through the door of the gas station. A bell jingled. The clerk behind the counter, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes, looked up at me. I walked straight to the counter and leaned in close. Call the police, I whispered. Her eyes widened. What? That guy who just came in with me. I picked him up on the highway and something's wrong. I think he's dangerous. Please, call the cops. She looked past me, toward the door. What guy? I turned around. He was gone. I ran to the door, looked outside. He wasn't by my car, wasn't by the pumps, wasn't anywhere. Where did he go? I asked, my voice shaking. The clerk shook her head. I didn't see anyone come in with you. I felt like I was losing my mind. He was right behind me. He got out of my car. She looked at me like I was crazy. Honey, you came in alone. I ran outside, checked my car. All the doors were open. All 4 of them. I don't remember unlocking them. And on the passenger seat, lying there like it had been waiting for me, was a knife. A hunting knife. Long blade. Wooden handle. Covered in dark, dried stains. I screamed. The clerk called the police. They came. Took the knife. Asked me 100 questions. Searched the area. They never found him. They ran the prints on the knife. It came back connected to a string of unsolved murders across the Midwest. Hitchhikers who'd gone missing, drivers who'd picked up the wrong person. But no suspect, no name, no face. They told me I was lucky. I don't feel lucky, because 2 months later, I was driving home from work. Rush hour, city traffic. I stopped at a red light, and I looked over. In the car next to me, passenger seat, it was him. Same face, same empty eyes, staring at me. The light turned green. The car drove off. I never saw the driver. I reported it. Police couldn't do anything. No plates, no evidence. But I know what I saw, and I know he's still out there, still hitchhiking, still waiting for someone else to make the same mistake I did. I can't live in a basement apartment anymore. I don't care how cheap the rent is, how convenient the location, how nice the landlord seems. I'll never do it again. Not after what I saw. Not after what happened. Let me back up. This was in Portland, Oregon, about 2 years ago. I was 26, fresh out of a bad breakup, barely scraping by on a barista's salary. I found this basement apartment in the Selwood neighborhood. Small, dark, but affordable. The landlord was this sweet older woman who lived upstairs. She said the last tenant had lived there for 3 years without any problems. The apartment had ground-level windows, small rectangles set high on the walls, the kind you have to look up at from inside. They had bars on them for security, but you could still see out. And more importantly, people could see in. That should have been my first red flag. The windows faced a narrow walkway between my building and the neighbor's fence. Not a lot of foot traffic. Mostly just overgrown bushes and moss-covered concrete. During the day, it was fine. At night, it was pitch black except for a single flickering motion sensor light that barely worked. I moved in mid-April. Spring in Portland means rain. Constant, heavy, suffocating rain. The kind that makes everything damp and cold and depressing. For the first few weeks, everything was normal. I come home from work, make dinner, watch Netflix, go to bed. The usual routine. I liked the quiet, liked being alone after the chaos of my last relationship. But then I started feeling it. That sensation. The one you get when you know someone's watching you. Started subtle. I'd be sitting on my couch, watching TV, and I'd get this prickling feeling on the back of my neck. I'd look around. Nothing. Just me and the glow of the screen. But the feeling wouldn't go away. I told myself it was just anxiety. Adjusting to a new place. Being alone. My therapist had warned me about hypervigilance after a breakup. But deep down, I knew it was something else. It was a Thursday night in late April. Rainy as always. I'd gotten off work late and decided to have a lazy night. Ordered Thai food. Put on a horror movie. Ironic? I know. Turned off all the lights except for the TV. I was about 30 minutes into the movie when I felt it again. That feeling. Stronger this time. Undeniable. I paused the movie. Sat in the silence. Listened. Rain pattering against the windows. A car passing by on the street above. Nothing unusual. But my heart was racing. Slowly, I turned my head toward the window on my right. The one that faced the walkway. And that's when I saw it. A face. Pressed against the glass. Inches away. Staring directly at me. Pale. Eyes wide. Unblinking. I screamed. Jumped off the couch. Stumbled backward. My heart felt like it was going to explode out of my chest. The face didn't move. Didn't react. Just kept staring. I grabbed my phone. Turned on the flashlight. Shined it toward the window. The face was gone. I stood there. Trembling. Breathing hard. Staring at the empty window. My mind was racing. Did I imagine it? Was it a reflection? A shadow? But I knew what I'd seen. I ran to the window, looked out. The walkway was empty. Just wet concrete and dripping bushes. The motion sensor light was off. I checked all the other windows. Nothing. I checked the door. Locked. I called my landlord. She didn't answer. I left a voicemail, trying to keep my voice steady, asking if she'd seen anyone outside. Then I called the police. They arrived 20 minutes later. 2 officers, a man and a woman. They were professional, calm, took my statement, asked me to describe what I saw. I told them, pale face, wide eyes, pressed right up against the glass. They searched the area outside with flashlights, checked the walkway, the bushes, the neighbor's yard. And then they found something. Footprints. In the mud. Right outside my window. Fresh. Deep. Like someone had been standing there for a long time. The female officer took photos. The male officer asked if I had any enemies, any ex-boyfriends who might be stalking me, anyone who'd want to scare me. I told them about my ex, but he lived in Seattle now. Hadn't contacted me in months. It didn't make sense. They said they'd increase patrols in the area. Told me to call immediately if it happened again. They suggested I get curtains. Heavy ones. After they left, I pushed my couch against the wall beneath the window. I couldn't see out anymore, but more importantly, no one could see in. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my bed with every light in the apartment on, clutching a kitchen knife, staring at the windows. The next day, I went to Target and bought blackout curtains. Thick, heavy ones. I covered every single window in the apartment. For a few days, I felt safer. But the feeling didn't go away. I started noticing other things. Small things. I'd come home from work and my bedroom door would be open. I always closed it. I'd find the bathroom light on. I never left it on. One time, I came home and my laptop was open. I distinctly remembered shutting it that morning. I asked my landlord if she'd been in my apartment. She said no. Said she never went in without asking first. I started wondering if I was losing my mind, if the stress and isolation were getting to me, if I was imagining things. But then it happened again. It was about 2 weeks after the first incident. Another rainy night. I was in bed, reading, blackout curtains drawn. Around midnight, I heard something. A scraping sound. Metal on metal. Coming from the window. I froze. Stopped breathing. Listened. There it was again. Scraping. Like something was being dragged across the bars. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and crept toward the window. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold it. I pulled back the curtain just a crack, and I saw fingers, human fingers, wrapped around the bars, pulling, testing them. I screamed, dropped the phone, ran to the door, unlocked it, and bolted upstairs to my landlord's apartment. I pounded on her door until she answered. She called the police again. They came, searched, found more footprints, found scratches on the bars, fresh ones, but no one was there. The police suggested I move, said whoever it was, they were escalating, that I wasn't safe. I agreed. I broke my lease a week later, moved in with a friend on the east side, somewhere with second-floor windows, somewhere safer. But here's the thing that still haunts me. Before I moved out, my landlord told me something. She said the tenant before me, the one who'd lived there for 3 years, moved out suddenly. Wouldn't say why, just packed up and left. I asked if she ever complained about anything. My landlord hesitated. Then she said, she mentioned seeing someone outside her window once. I thought she was overreacting. I asked what happened to her. My landlord said she didn't know. Lost contact after she moved. I tried finding her online. Facebook, Instagram, nothing. It's like she disappeared. And sometimes, late at night, when I'm lying in bed in my new apartment, I wonder, did she get away? Or did he find her? And I wonder if he's looking for me now. Because 2 months ago, I was walking home from work, and I felt it again. That feeling. I turned around, and in the reflection of a store window, I saw him, standing behind me, about 10 feet back, pale face, wide eyes, staring. I spun around. No one was there, but I know what I saw. He's still out there, and I think he's still watching. I don't take rideshares alone anymore. I don't care how inconvenient it is, how expensive a taxi costs, how far I have to walk. I'll never forget the sound of those locks clicking, the look in his eyes in the rearview mirror. How close I came to never making it home. Let me back up. This happened in Miami about a year ago. I was there for a work conference, 3 days of panels, networking events, and overpriced hotel food. I'm a marketing manager for a tech company, And these conferences are part of the job. I'd been to Miami before, felt safe enough. It was a Saturday night, the last night of the conference. A group of us had gone out to celebrate in Wynwood, bar hopping, dancing, blowing off steam after 3 exhausting days. By 1 a.m., everyone started heading back to their hotels. I should have shared an Uber with someone, but my hotel was in a different direction, and I didn't want to make anyone go out of their way. So I ordered my own. Big mistake. The app said my driver's name was Miguel. 4.8-star rating. Silver Toyota Camry. License plate matched. Everything checked out. When the car pulled up, I checked the plates twice, checked the driver's face against the photo in the app. It matched. I got in the back seat. "Hey," I said, trying to be friendly. "How's your night going?" He didn't respond, just nodded slightly and pulled away from the curb. I didn't think much of it. Some drivers are chatty, some aren't. I was tired anyway. I leaned back, checked my phone, scrolled through Instagram. We drove for a few minutes. I was half paying attention to the route, half zoning out. Then I noticed something. We were supposed to turn left at the next light, toward the highway. Instead, he went straight. "Hey," I said, leaning forward. "I think you missed the turn." He didn't respond. I checked the app. The route was clearly marked. Left turn. He'd gone straight. "Excuse me," I said, louder this time. "You were supposed to turn back there." Still nothing. My stomach tightened. I looked out the window. We were driving through a darker part of town now. Fewer streetlights, fewer cars, warehouses and chain-link fences instead of hotels and restaurants. "Hey," I said, my voice sharper now. "Where are you going? This isn't the right way." He glanced at me in the rearview mirror, and that's when I saw his eyes. Cold, empty, calculating. He didn't say a word, just stared at me for a beat too long, then looked back at the road. My heart started pounding. "Let me out," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Pull over. I'll get another ride." He didn't pull over. That's when I heard it. Click. The central locks. All the doors. Locked at once. Panic hit me like a freight train. "Unlock the doors," I shouted, grabbing the door handle. It wouldn't budge. Child lock. I couldn't open it from the inside. He said nothing, just kept driving. Faster now. I pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I opened the Uber app, tried to report an emergency. The app was glitching, frozen, not loading. "Let me out," I screamed. "Unlock the fucking doors." He slammed on the brakes. The car screeched to a stop. I lurched forward, slamming into the back of the passenger seat. He turned around, slowly, looked me dead in the eyes. "Put the phone down," he said. His voice was calm, too calm, like he'd done this before. "No," I said, my voice trembling. "Unlock the doors or I'm calling the police." He smiled, not a friendly smile, cold, predatory smile. "Go ahead," he said. "Call them. See how long it takes." I pressed 911. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. The call connected. I heard the dispatcher's voice. 911, "What's your emergency?" "I'm in an Uber and the driver won't let me out," I said, my voice breaking. "He locked the doors. I don't know where I am. Please." The driver turned back around and hit the gas. Hard. The car shot forward. I dropped the phone. "Hello? Ma'am? Are you there?" I could hear the dispatcher's voice coming from the floor, but I couldn't reach it. I was bracing myself against the seat as he swerved through the streets, taking sharp turns, running red lights. I screamed, pounded on the windows, tried to get someone's attention, but the streets were empty. No one was around. He drove for another 2 minutes. I lost track of where we were. Industrial area. No lights, no people, just warehouses and empty lots. Then suddenly he stopped. We were at a red light. Cross street. One car pulled up next to us. A white SUV. I could see the driver, a woman maybe in her 40s. I didn't hesitate. I started pounding on the window, screaming, waving my arms. "Help! Help me! Please!" She looked over, saw me, Her eyes went wide. She honked. Loud. Long. Over and over. The light turned green. My driver cursed under his breath. The woman didn't move. She stayed right next to us, honking, yelling something I couldn't hear. Other cars started pulling up. People were looking. Someone was recording on their phone. My driver's face twisted with rage. He cursed again, louder this time. Then I heard it. Click. The locks. Unlocked. I didn't wait. I grabbed the door handle, threw myself out of the car while it was still at the light. I hit the pavement hard, scraped my hands and knees, but I didn't care. I scrambled to my feet and ran. The woman in the SUV jumped out. "Are you okay?" I couldn't speak. I just pointed at the Uber. But when I looked back, he was already speeding off. Ran the red light, disappeared into the dark. The woman called 911, stayed with me until the police arrived. She probably saved my life. The police took my statement, took photos of my scraped hands, asked for the driver's information from the app. I gave them everything: his name, license plate, car model, photo. They said they'd look into it. 2 days later, they called me back. The account was fake. The photo didn't match any registered Uber driver in Florida. The license plate belonged to a car that had been reported stolen 2 weeks earlier. The car was found abandoned in a Walmart parking lot, wiped clean. No prints, no DNA, nothing. They never found him. Uber deactivated the account, but the detective told me it didn't matter. Whoever he was, he'd just create a new one. He told me I wasn't the first person to report something like this, that there'd been similar incidents in Miami, Atlanta, Los Angeles. Women getting into rideshares that seemed legitimate, then being taken to secondary locations. Some came back, some didn't. I flew home the next day, didn't tell my coworkers what happened, didn't want to relive it, but it didn't end there. 3 months later, I was back home in Denver. I ordered an Uber to meet friends for dinner. Different city, different driver. But when the car pulled up, I looked at the driver's face, and my blood went cold. It was him. Different name on the app, different car, but the same face, the same eyes. I canceled the ride, reported the account, ran back inside my apartment and locked the door. The account was deactivated within an hour. But I know he's still out there, creating new accounts, new names, new cars, hunting. I reported it to the FBI, gave them everything I had. They said they'd investigate. I haven't heard back. Now, I don't take rideshares alone. I screenshot every driver's info and send it to friends. I sit behind the driver so he can't see me in the mirror. I keep my hand on the door handle the entire ride. And I check the locks, every single time, because I know what can happen in the 15 minutes between getting in a stranger's car and arriving at your destination. I know how quickly everything can go wrong. And I know there are men out there who are counting on you to trust the app, to get in without asking questions, to think you're safe because there's a rating system and a license plate check. But you're not, and neither am I, because he's still driving, still waiting, still hunting for the next woman who makes the same mistake I almost did. I bought my first house when I was 31. It felt like a huge accomplishment. Owning something that was mine, not renting anymore, building equity, all that adult stuff everyone talks about. I was so proud, so excited. I had no idea what I was buying into. Let me back up. This was in Boise, Idaho, about 2.5 years ago. I'd just gotten a promotion at work, saved up a decent down payment, and started house hunting. The market was competitive, but I found this cute little bungalow in an older neighborhood on the north end, built in the 1950s. Hardwood floors, big backyard, tree-lined street. It needed some work, but it had character. The inspector didn't find anything major. The neighbors seemed nice, mostly retirees and young families. Quiet area, safe, everything I wanted. I closed in late September and moved in the first week of October. The first 2 weeks were normal. I spent my evenings unpacking boxes, painting the bedroom, hanging curtains. I'd order takeout, watch TV, fall asleep feeling content. I loved that house, felt like home. Then, on the 15th night, I noticed him. I was closing the living room curtains before bed, probably around 11 p.m. and I glanced out the window toward the street. And there he was, a man, standing at the end of my driveway, facing my house, not walking, not moving, just standing there, hands at his sides, completely still. I froze, stared at him for a few seconds. He was maybe 40 feet away, illuminated by the streetlight, average height, dark clothing. I couldn't see his face clearly, but I could tell he was looking at my house. I figured he was waiting for someone, a rideshare maybe, or a friend picking him up. I closed the curtains and went to bed. The next night I checked again. Same time, 11 p.m. He was there. Same spot, same posture, standing at the end of my driveway. My stomach tightened. That was weird, but I told myself it was a coincidence. Maybe he lived nearby and was, I don't know, getting fresh air? Smoking a cigarette? Except he wasn't smoking. He was just standing there. On the third night, I checked again. 11:15 p.m. this time. Still there. Now I was scared. I grabbed my phone and took a picture through the window. The photo was grainy, too dark, too far away, but you could see his silhouette. I texted it to my friend Rachel with the caption, "There's a guy standing in my driveway every night. Is this weird or am I paranoid?" She called me immediately. "That's fucking creepy," she said. "Call the cops." "And tell them what?" "That someone's standing on a public sidewalk. He's on your property, isn't he?" I looked again. He was right at the edge of my driveway. Technically not on my property, but close enough to make me uncomfortable. "I don't know if the cops can do anything," I said. "He's not trespassing. He's not threatening me. He's just standing there." "Start documenting it," Rachel said. "Every night. Take photos. If it keeps happening, you'll have evidence." So that's what I did. Night 4, he was there. 11:08 p.m. Night 5 there. 11:12 p.m. Night 6 there. 11:20 p.m. Always between 11 p.m. and midnight. Always in the same spot. Never moving. I started losing sleep. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, knowing he was out there. I'd get up multiple times to peek through the curtains, and every time he'd still be standing there. On night 7, I decided to call the police. The dispatcher was polite but sounded skeptical. She said she'd send an officer to do a welfare check. I watched from the window. A patrol car pulled up about 20 minutes later. By the time the officer got out and walked toward my driveway, the man was gone. The officer knocked on my door. I explained the situation, showed him the photos on my phone. He looked at them, then looked at me with that expression cops give you when they think you're overreacting. "Ma'am, I don't see anyone out here now," he said. "Has this person threatened you? Tried to enter your property?" "No, but..." "Then legally, there's not much we can do. If he's on public property, he's allowed to stand there." "Every single night?" I said, my voice rising. "For a week straight? That's not suspicious to you?" He sighed. "I understand it's unsettling, but unless he makes contact with you, trespasses or commits a crime, we can't arrest someone for standing on a sidewalk." He told me to keep documenting it, to call again if the behavior escalated, and to consider installing a security camera. After he left, I felt helpless, angry, scared, but I took his advice. The next day, I went to Home Depot and bought a video doorbell camera, installed it myself, pointed it directly at the driveway. That night, I watched the live feed on my phone from my bedroom. At 11:04 p.m., he appeared, walked slowly up the street, stopped at the end of my driveway, stood there, faced the house. I zoomed in as much as the camera would allow. I still couldn't see his face clearly. He kept his head tilted down slightly, like he was staring at the ground. But I could see his build, his clothes, his stillness. I watched him for 45 minutes. He didn't move, didn't check his phone, didn't smoke, didn't do anything. At 11:51 p.m., he turned and walked away. Same slow, deliberate pace. I saved the footage and sent it to the police the next morning. They said they'd look into it. They never called me back. On night 12, I couldn't take it anymore. At 11:10 p.m., I watched him appear on the camera feed. My hands were shaking, but I was furious. I grabbed a flashlight, unlocked my front door, and walked outside. My heart was pounding. My legs felt like jelly, but I forced myself to walk down the driveway toward him. As I got closer, I could see him more clearly. He looked like he was in his 50s. Thinning hair, pale skin, blank expression. "Hey!" I shouted, my voice shakier than I wanted it to be. "What are you doing?" He didn't react at first, just kept staring. Then, slowly, he turned his head toward me, and he smiled. Not a friendly smile, not a threatening smile, just empty, hollow. "I used to live here," he said. His voice was quiet, flat, emotionless. I felt a chill run down my spine. "What?" I said. "I used to live here," he repeated. This was my house. I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, gripping the flashlight like it was a weapon. "Okay," I said slowly, "but you don't live here anymore." "I do." He nodded, still smiling. "I know. Then why do you keep coming back?" He tilted his head slightly, stared at me for a long, uncomfortable moment. "I wanted to see who was living in my house," he said. "Well, now you know," I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. "So, please stop. You're scaring me." He didn't respond, just kept staring. Then, without another word, he turned and walked away. Slow, calm, like nothing had happened. I stood there, watching him disappear down the street, my heart racing. I went inside, locked every door, checked every window, and didn't sleep at all that night. The next day, I did some research. I pulled the property records for my house. Found the previous owner's name, David Alcott. Owned the house from 1998 to 2017. Sold it after his wife died. I found his obituary online. David Alcott. Died in 2019. Natural causes. My blood went cold. The man I spoke to looked exactly like the photo in the obituary. But that was impossible. He was dead. I told myself I was mistaken, that it was someone else. A relative, maybe, a brother. But deep down, I knew. I checked the camera that night, 11:06 p.m. He didn't come. He hasn't come back since. But sometimes, late at night, I still look out the window, and I swear I see him, standing at the end of the driveway, watching, waiting, wondering if he'll ever leave, or if this house will ever really be mine. I don't use voice assistants anymore. No Alexa, no Google Home, no Siri unless absolutely necessary. People think I'm paranoid. They tell me I'm overreacting, but they didn't hear what I heard. They didn't experience what I experienced. They don't know who was listening. Let me back up. This happened about a year and a half ago. I was living in a studio apartment in Brooklyn, Williamsburg, to be specific. Tiny place. Maybe 400 square feet. But it was mine, and in New York, that's a victory. I lived alone. Just me and my dog, Biscuit, a 7-year-old beagle mix I'd rescued a few years earlier. I worked long hours as a graphic designer, mostly from home, so I'd gotten into the habit of talking to my Alexa. I know that sounds pathetic, but it was nice having something respond to me. Even if it was just a machine, I'd ask her to play music while I worked. Set timers when I cooked. Turn off the lights when I was too lazy to get up. Normal stuff. Harmless stuff. Or so I thought. It was a Tuesday night in late September. I'd worked late. Probably until around midnight, and I was exhausted. I brushed my teeth, let Biscuit out one last time, and collapsed into bed. My Alexa sat on my dresser across the room. A small black cylinder with a glowing blue ring. I turned off all the lights except for the dim lamp on my nightstand. I was just starting to drift off when I heard it. Voices. At first, I thought I'd left the TV on. But the TV was off. I could see it from my bed, dark screen, no light. Then I realized the voices were coming from the Alexa. I sat up, heart already beating faster. It was a conversation. 2 voices. One was Alexa's, that familiar, calm, robotic tone. The other was a man, a voice I didn't recognize. "Is she awake?" the man asked. I froze. Then Alexa responded, in her normal, cheerful voice. "No, she is sleeping." My blood turned to ice. I stared at the device, my mind racing. What the fuck? What the actual fuck? The man's voice came again. Good. Then silence. I jumped out of bed, nearly tripping over Biscuit, and ran to the dresser. My hands were shaking as I grabbed the Alexa and ripped the plug out of the wall. The blue ring went dark. I stood there in the silence, breathing hard, clutching the unplugged device like it might come back to life. Biscuit was staring at me from the bed, confused. I checked my phone, opened the Alexa app, scrolled through the voice history. Nothing. No record of any commands. No questions asked. No responses given. The last logged interaction was from earlier that evening when I'd asked her to play a podcast. But I knew what I'd heard. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my bed with every light on, staring at the Alexa on my dresser. I put it in a drawer, unplugged, like it was some cursed object. The next morning, I called Amazon customer support. I explained what happened, tried to stay calm, tried not to sound insane. The representative was polite but clearly skeptical. She said it was probably a glitch, maybe some kind of interference. She suggested I reset the device. I don't want to reset it, I said. I want to know how someone was talking through it. I understand your concern, ma'am, she said in that scripted customer service tone. But our devices are very secure. It's highly unlikely someone accessed it remotely. But it's possible? I pressed. She hesitated. Technically, yes. If your Wi-Fi network was compromised, or if someone had access to your Amazon account. But that's extremely rare. I thanked her and hung up. Then I changed every password I had. Amazon, email, Wi-Fi, everything. I thought that would fix it. I was wrong. A week later, I plugged the Alexa back in. I know, stupid. But I convinced myself it had been a glitch. A one-time thing. I missed the convenience. I missed the noise. Everything was fine for a few days. Normal commands. Normal responses. I started to relax. Then, one night around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of her voice. Good evening. I shot up in bed. The Alexa's ring was glowing blue, like she'd just been activated. But I hadn't said anything. Alexa, stop, I said, my voice shaking. The blue ring disappeared. Silence. I grabbed my phone, checked the app again. No commands logged. I unplugged her again. This time, I didn't just put her in a drawer. I took her out to the trash chute in the hallway and threw her away. I thought that was the end of it. But 2 weeks later, something else happened. I was working late on a design project, sitting at my desk, laptop open. Biscuit was asleep at my feet. It was around 1 a.m. Suddenly, Siri activated on my iPhone. I heard the familiar chime, saw the Siri waveform on my screen, and then a voice came through my phone speaker. The same man's voice from before. I know you threw her away. I dropped the phone, scrambled backward in my chair. Biscuit woke up and started barking. I stared at my phone on the floor, Siri's waveform still pulsing. Then my phone spoke again, in Siri's voice this time. Would you like me to call someone? I grabbed the phone, hands shaking, and force restarted it. Held down the buttons until the screen went black. When it powered back on, I immediately disabled Siri. Went into settings and turned off every voice-activated feature. Hey Siri, voice commands, everything. I sat there for a long time, trying to catch my breath, trying to make sense of what just happened. Then I called my friend Marcus. He works in cybersecurity. If anyone could help me, it was him. I told him everything. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, there was a long pause. You need to factory reset everything, he said. Phone, laptop, router, everything. And you need to check for spyware. Spyware? Yeah. If someone got access to your devices, they might have installed something. Remote access software. Keyloggers. It's not hard if they know what they're doing. He walked me through it over the phone. We wiped my phone, checked my laptop, scanned for malware, reset my router, changed all my passwords again. He found something, program I didn't recognize, buried in my laptop's background processes. He said it was remote access software. Someone had been able to see my screen, control my devices, listen through my microphone. "How long has this been on here?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Hard to say," Marcus said. "Could be weeks. Could be months." "Who did this?" "I don't know. But whoever it is, they're good. This isn't some script kiddie shit. This is sophisticated." He removed the software, secured everything, told me to monitor my accounts closely, to be careful about what I said around my devices. But the damage was done. I couldn't stop thinking about it. How long had someone been watching me? Listening to me? What had they seen? What had they heard? I started covering my laptop camera with tape, turning my phone face down, unplugging my router at night. I felt violated, paranoid, unsafe in my own home. A month later, I moved. Different apartment, different neighborhood. I didn't tell anyone where I was going except a few close friends. I bought all new devices. New phone, new laptop, new router. I didn't sync anything from the cloud. Started completely fresh. For a while, I felt better. But then, about 2 months ago, something happened that made my blood run cold. I was at a coffee shop in my new neighborhood, working on my laptop. My phone was sitting on the table next to me, face up. A notification popped up. A text from an unknown number. It said, "I like your new place." I stared at it. My hands started shaking. I looked around the coffee shop. Dozens of people. Any one of them could have sent it. I blocked the number, reported it, told myself it was spam. But deep down, I knew. Whoever had access to my devices before, they found me again. I don't know who they are. I don't know what they want. But I know they're still watching, still listening, still waiting. And no matter how many times I change my passwords, reset my devices, or move to a new place, I can't shake the feeling that I'm never really alone. I still think about that gas station attendant. I don't know his name, never got the chance to ask. But he saved my life that night, and I'll never know what would have happened if he hadn't been paying attention. Let me back up. This happened in July 3 years ago. I was driving cross-country solo road trip from Seattle to Denver. I just quit my job, ended a 5-year relationship, and needed to clear my head. 28 years old and feeling like my life was falling apart. I thought a long drive through the mountains would help me think, help me heal. I was wrong about a lot of things. I'd been on the road for 2 days, spent the first night in Boise, the second in Twin Falls. My plan was to drive straight through Wyoming, reach Cheyenne by morning, then push on to Denver. But Wyoming at night is a different beast. Endless darkness, empty highways, no cell service, just you, the road, and the occasional 18-wheeler barreling past. I'd been driving for about 6 hours when I realized I needed gas. It was close to midnight. I hadn't seen a town in over an hour. My tank was below a quarter. I started to panic. Then I saw it. A small green sign, gas 2 miles. Relief washed over me. The gas station appeared out of nowhere. A tiny, run-down place with 2 pumps and a flickering neon sign that said, "Open." The kind of place that looks like it's been there since the 1970s and hasn't been updated since. There was one other car there. An old pickup truck parked near the air pump. No one inside. I pulled up to the pump closest to the building. Turned off the engine. The silence was immediate and heavy. No traffic. No wind. Just the hum of the fluorescent lights above the pumps. I got out, stretched, and looked around. The place felt off. I couldn't explain it. Just a gut feeling. I swiped my card at the pump. It beeped. I started filling up. That's when I felt it. That prickling sensation on the back of my neck. The one you get when you know someone's watching you. I turned around slowly, scanning the darkness beyond the gas station lights. Nothing. Just empty road, black sky, distant hills silhouetted against the stars. I shook it off, told myself I was tired, paranoid from too much true crime podcasts on the drive. The pump clicked. Tank full. I replaced the nozzle and headed inside to grab a coffee and use the bathroom. The door chimed as I walked in. The interior was exactly what you'd expect. Aisles of chips and candy, a coffee station with burnt sludge in the pots, a lottery ticket display, and a single register. Behind the register stood an older man, probably in his 60s, weathered face, gray beard, flannel shirt. He looked like he'd been working there for decades. He glanced up at me as I entered, then looked past me, out the window toward my car. His expression changed. His eyes widened slightly. His jaw tightened. "You alone?" he asked. His voice was rough, urgent. I stopped. Yeah. Why?" He looked at me, then back out the window, then back at me. "You need to come here," he said quietly. "Now." My heart started pounding. "What? Why?" "Just come here," he insisted, motioning me toward the counter. "Don't look outside. Just walk over here calmly." Every instinct in my body was screaming. I walked toward him, trying to keep my breathing steady. When I reached the counter, he leaned in close and whispered, "There's a man crouched behind your car." The world tilted. "What?" I whispered back, my voice barely audible. "Behind your car," he repeated, his eyes dead serious. "Near the back tire. He's been following you." "Following me?" My voice cracked. "How do you know?" "I saw him pull in right after you. No headlights. Parked back there in the dark." He nodded toward the far edge of the lot, where the lights didn't quite reach. "He got out and crept up behind your car while you were pumping gas. He's waiting for you to get back in." I felt like I was going to be sick. "Are you sure?" I asked, my hands trembling. He nodded. "I've been watching him the whole time. He thinks I can't see him, but I can." "Oh my God." I breathed. "What do I do?" "Stay calm," he said. "I'm gonna walk out there with you. I've got a bat under the counter. We'll check together. If he runs, fine. If he doesn't..." He trailed off, but I understood. He grabbed a wooden baseball bat from behind the register. Worn grip, chipped paint. It looked like it had been used before. "Stay close to me," he said. We walked outside together. My legs felt like jelly. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode. The attendant walked ahead of me, bat in hand, moving slowly toward my car. I stayed a few feet behind him, eyes scanning the shadows. As we got closer, I could see my car clearly under the fluorescent lights. The back end, the tire. No one was there. The attendant stopped, frowned, walked around the entire car, checking behind each tire, looking underneath. Nothing. "He was here," the attendant muttered. "I swear to God, he was right here." I looked around. The parking lot was empty. The old pickup truck was still parked near the air pump. The road beyond was dark and silent. "Maybe he ran when he saw you coming out," I offered, my voice shaking. The attendant crouched down near the back of my car, pointed at the ground. "Look." I bent down and looked. Handprints, in the dust on my trunk. Fresh. The dirt was smudged where someone had clearly been gripping the edge. My stomach turned. "Jesus Christ," I whispered. The attendant stood up, eyes scanning the darkness. "You need to leave. Right now. Don't stop until you hit the next town. Don't pull over for anything. What if he follows me? Drive fast. Keep your doors locked. If you see headlights behind you that don't pass, call 911. There's no cell service out here," I said, panic rising in my voice. "Then drive until you find some." He walked me back to my car, checked the back seat, checked the trunk. Everything was clear. "Go," he said. "Now." I got in, locked the doors, started the engine. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip the steering wheel. I looked at the attendant through the window. He gave me a single nod. I pulled out of the gas station and onto the highway, my eyes glued to the rearview mirror. For the first 10 minutes, nothing. Just empty road behind me. Then I saw them. Headlights, distant at first, then closer, gaining on me. I pressed the gas pedal down. My speedometer climbed. 70, 80, 90. The headlights kept pace. My heart was racing. I kept checking the mirror, watching them get closer. Then suddenly they disappeared. I don't know if they turned off, or if they went down a side road, or if they were ever really following me at all. But I didn't stop. I drove for another 2 hours straight, white-knuckling the steering wheel, barely blinking. until I finally saw the lights of Cheyenne on the horizon. I pulled into the first gas station I found, a brightly lit, busy truck stop, and sat in my car, shaking, crying, trying to process what had just happened. I called the police, told them everything. They said they'd send someone to check the area, but I never heard back. I stayed in a motel that night, didn't sleep, just stared at the door, listening to every sound. The next morning, I checked my car again in the daylight. The handprints were still there, smudged in the dust, clear as day. I took photos, sent them to the police, sent them to friends, kept them on my phone, because I need to remember. I need to remember that I almost didn't make it home that night, that if that attendant hadn't been paying attention, if he hadn't warned me, I would have gotten back in my car, and whoever was crouched behind it would have been waiting. I never found out who he was. I tried going back to that gas station a year later, but I couldn't find it. Drove the same stretch of highway. Nothing. Like it didn't exist. Maybe I remembered the location wrong, or maybe it was never really there. But I know what happened. I know what I saw, and I know I'll never drive through Wyoming alone again. I used to love solo camping. There was something peaceful about being alone in the wilderness. No distractions, no phones, no people. Just you, the trees, and the silence. It was my escape, my therapy. I'll never do it again. Let me back up. This happened in October about 3 years ago. I was 32, going through a rough divorce, and I needed to get away. Clear my head. I'd been camping since I was a kid. Done the Appalachian Trail, camped in Colorado, Oregon, all over. I knew what I was doing. I wasn't some naive beginner, or so I thought. I chose a spot in the Pennsylvania backcountry, remote area in the Allegheny National Forest. I'd been there once before, years ago, and remembered it being beautiful. Dense woods, a small stream, very few other campers. Perfect for what I needed. I packed my gear, tent, sleeping bag, camp stove, knife, first aid kit, and drove up on a Friday afternoon. The weather was perfect. Cool but not cold. Clear skies. The leaves were turning orange and red. Felt like the fresh start I'd been craving. I hiked about 2 miles off the main trail and found a clearing near a stream. Flat ground. Good tree coverage. No signs of other people. I set up my tent, gathered firewood, cooked a simple dinner, and sat by the fire as the sun went down. It was exactly what I needed. Quiet, calm, therapeutic. By 10 p.m., I was exhausted. I put out the fire, checked my surroundings one last time with my flashlight, habit from years of camping, and crawled into my tent. I zipped it shut, double-checked the zippers, laid out my sleeping bag, put my knife within arm's reach just in case. Another old habit. I fell asleep around 10:30 p.m. I don't know what time it was when I woke up, but it was deep night, pitch black inside the tent. No moon, no stars visible through the fabric. And I heard something. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, crunching through the leaves and underbrush. I froze, held my breath, listened. The footsteps were circling my tent. Slowly, methodically, like someone was walking around it, studying it. My heart started pounding. My first thought was an animal. Bear maybe, or a deer. But the footsteps were too measured, too human. I lay completely still, eyes wide open in the darkness, listening. The footsteps continued, around the front of the tent, then the left side, then the back. They stopped, right outside the door. I could hear breathing, slow, steady, just on the other side of the thin nylon fabric. Every muscle in my body was tensed. My hand slowly reached for the knife beside my sleeping bag. Then I heard it, the zipper. Someone was opening my tent. The sound was unmistakable, that metallic scraping as the zipper slowly pulled down. Inch by inch. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. My mind was racing. Who the fuck is out here? What do they want? The zipper pulled down halfway. I could see the gap now. A sliver of darkness from outside, slightly less dark than inside the tent. And then I saw it. A hand, reaching through the opening. Pale, dirty fingernails. Slowly reaching in, feeling around. Something inside me snapped. I screamed, primal guttural scream, and I lunged forward with the knife, slashing blindly at the hand. I felt the blade make contact. Not deep, just a glancing cut. The hand jerked back. I heard a sharp hiss of pain. Then footsteps, running, fast, crashing through the woods, getting farther away. I scrambled to zip the tent shut, my hands shaking so badly I could barely grip the zipper. I pulled it all the way up, then backed into the corner of my tent, knife clutched in both hands, breathing hard. I sat there in the darkness, listening. Silence. Just the sound of the stream, the wind in the trees, my own ragged breathing. I didn't move, didn't sleep, just sat there, knife ready, waiting for the footsteps to come back. They didn't. When the first light of dawn started creeping into the tent, I finally allowed myself to move. My whole body ached from sitting in the same position for hours. Slowly, carefully, I unzipped the tent and looked outside. The clearing looked normal. My fire pit, my backpack, everything where I'd left it. But then I saw something. Cigarette butts. A small pile of them, just outside the tree line, about 20 feet from my tent. Fresh ones, still smelling of smoke. Someone had been standing there, watching me, for hours. My stomach turned. I walked over to the pile, counted them, 7 cigarette butts. How long had he been standing there before he approached my tent? I looked around, trying to see if there were any other signs. Footprints, tracks, anything. That's when I saw the trail. Disturbed leaves, broken branches, leading from deeper in the woods to my tent. He hadn't come from the main trail. He'd come from the backcountry, from the middle of nowhere, like he'd been living out here. I didn't wait. I packed my gear in less than 10 minutes. Didn't care about being neat or organized. Just shoved everything into my backpack and got the hell out. I hiked the 2 miles back to the trailhead faster than I've ever moved. Kept looking over my shoulder. Kept expecting to see him following me. I reached my car, threw my gear in the trunk, locked the doors, and sat there for a moment, trying to catch my breath. My hands were still shaking. I drove to the nearest town, a tiny place called Kane, and went straight to the police station. I told them everything. The footsteps, the zipper, the hand, the cigarette butts. They took my statement, asked for the location, said they'd send someone to check it out. A few days later, they called me. They'd found my campsite, found the cigarette butts, and they found something else. A second campsite, about a quarter mile from mine, hidden deep in the woods, makeshift shelter, trash, empty food cans, and a collection of items that didn't belong to any one person. Women's jewelry, a driver's license, a phone, a wallet, all from different people. The officer told me they believed someone had been living out there, potentially for months, and that he'd been targeting solo campers. They'd found evidence of at least 3 other campsites nearby that had been visited, but no one had reported anything. Maybe because they didn't realize, or maybe because they didn't make it out. They never found him. They searched the area for weeks, brought in search dogs, checked surrounding towns. Nothing. He disappeared. But here's the part that still keeps me up at night. About 6 months later, I got a message on Facebook from an account with no profile picture, no name, just a blank profile. The message said, "You cut me." That's it. 3 words. I reported it immediately, blocked the account, changed all my privacy settings. But a week later, I got another one. Different account. Same message. "You cut me." I reported that one too. Deactivated my Facebook. Locked down all my social media. But the messages didn't stop. They started coming to my email, my Instagram, even my LinkedIn. Always the same 3 words. "You cut me." I went to the police again. They said there was nothing they could do. The accounts were created with VPNs. Fake emails. Untraceable. I moved, changed my phone number, started over in a different state. The messages stopped. For a while. But 3 months ago, I was hiking near my new place. Daytime. Populated trail. I felt safe. I stopped to take a photo of the view. And when I turned around, I saw him, standing about 50 feet away, on the trail behind me, staring. Same build, same dirty clothes, and on his hand, visible even from that distance, was a scar. A thin, jagged scar across his palm. We locked eyes. He smiled, and then he turned and walked into the woods. I ran. Didn't stop until I reached my car. I reported it. Police searched. Found nothing. But I know he's still out there. Still watching. Still following. And I know one day he'll try again. Only next time I might not wake up in time.